Hello there, welcome to Conflict News 2042. Continuing our coverage of war between Palestine and Israel, we have several updates for you. Updates of the last 12 hours. I'm trying to keep you updated. Each and every major development I am sharing on this channel with you. Now, firstly, Amir of Qatar has threatened to stop gas supply to the world if airstrikes don't stop on Gaza. What did he say? Details for you. And who could be the casualty of this announcement? A European country signed a contract with Qatar last year after Russia suspended supply of gas to this European country. Secondly, Lebanon Israel border exchange of gunfire between Hezbollah and Israeli military, and a vehicle carrying journalists was hit. One journalist killed on the border. Thirdly, we know that last night Israeli military issued 24-hour ultimatum asking people of North Gaza to move towards South Gaza. So what is the latest? Did people move? For details for you in this video. Fourthly, we have a new story about firing of long-range rockets from Gaza on Israeli cities. Fifthly, Phosphorus munitions are being used by Israeli military. It has been confirmed, not by Palestinians, but by Human Rights Watch. And lastly, protests were held today in Gaza, in neighboring Arab countries, a protest in support of Israel too in the US by Catholics. Let's start this news bulletin from Qatar. Qatar, an Arab country, is seen as a US ally. And we know that Antony Blinken, US Secretary of State, was in Qatar today. Yesterday, he was in Tel Aviv. And after that, he's visiting other countries, Arab countries now, Jordan, Qatar, etc. He met with Qatari Amir today in Doha. Qatar and Turkey are allies. If you remember, when years ago Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, tried to put Qatar under blockade, it was Turkey which supported Qatar. Blinken is visiting Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, but not Turkey. Though Turkey is a NATO ally too, is a member of NATO too. So, US, Germany has been appreciating Qatar's role in mediating between Israel and Palestinian groups. But just a few minutes ago, Qatari Amir spoke. Surprising statement. Qatari Amir took a very strong position about attacks on Gaza. What did he say? He said, his name is Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. He said, Qatar will stop supply of gas to the world if strikes on Gaza continue, if Gaza is attacked. If attacks continue by Israeli forces, Qatar will stop the supply of gas to the world. Now, Qatar is a leading exporter of natural gas and liquefied natural gas. And those who import from Qatar are EU countries, China, India, South Korea, etc. US does not import from Qatar. US is exporter of gas. Europe relies to some extent on Qatari gas. And if you remember, Europe relied on Russian gas. Russia built Nord Stream pipeline to supply gas to Europe. But when Russia-Ukraine war broke out, after that Russia suspended supply of gas to Europe. Germany suffered. Gas prices increased across Europe. And then people, groups in the countries in Europe, they turned towards other gas exporters. They signed agreements with Qatar. Germany signed an agreement for purchase of LNG from Qatar last year. And Germany yesterday appreciated Qatar for mediating to resolve the conflict in Gaza in Israel. And today Qatar threatened to stop supply of gas to the world. By the way, the world runs on the principle of quid pro quo. Qatar obviously exports gas. It would be importing from other countries of the world too. Is Qatar self-sufficient in terms of food production? So, these Arab countries have some resources, oil, gas, but these Arab countries rely on outside world too for several of their needs to be met. So, if they stop export of all these resources, obviously they'll suffer too. Is it just a hollow threat, or the Qatari Amir wants to implement the threat? That remains to be seen. Maybe Turkey is not happy with Blinken's visit, and Turkey asked Qatar to take a strong position. Turkey, Qatar very close. And today we saw a big protest in Doha, Qatar, in support of Palestinians. Hamas had called for protests across the world yesterday. Protests were held across the world, especially around Israel. We are following this video. So, Qatar has taken a position. By the way, Qatar mediated between Iran and the US a few weeks ago, when the two sides agreed on unfreezing of Iranian oil revenue assets. Around 6 billion US dollars Iranian oil income was frozen by the US in South Korea. Qatar mediated between Iran and the US, and Iran agreed to release some prisoners, Iranian Americans, and in return, US agreed to unfreeze the 6 billion US dollars, which is Iranian income. And Qatar, I think money was transferred to Qatar, though Iran has not been given access to this money. And now reportedly, US is backtracking. It is withdrawing from the deal. Qatar not happy, Iran not happy because of this conflict in the Middle East. US does not want Iran to be given access to the money, which it agreed. It agreed on the access. But Qatar trying to honor the commitment, Iran also committed to the deal, US withdrawing, Qatar taking a strong position about the bombardment of Gaza, about possible ground invasion of Gaza. Secondly, viewers, the Lebanon Israel border, which is a northern border of Israel. Since Saturday, since the start of this war, we have been seeing off and on clashes on the border. Hezbollah fighters from Lebanese territory are launching mortars, rockets, guided missiles on Israeli military targets. Israeli military conducting drone strikes, airstrikes on Lebanese territory. It is firing artillery shells, mortar firing happening as well. A few hours ago, infiltrators from Lebanon breached a security fence on Israel-Lebanon border. They managed to enter Israel-controlled territory. There was an exchange of gunfire. Reportedly, some posts of Lebanese military and Hezbollah fighters were bombarded by Israeli Air Force. People in the areas were told to go into shelters. Alarms were heard, and now reportedly things under control. But in this, Hezbollah has confirmed this new escalation. No ground invasion of Israel from Lebanon so far. Only a few infiltrators enter mostly, or rockets are fired from Lebanon. No ground invasion so far, and no mobilization of Hezbollah fighters towards border as well. No satellite images confirming that Hezbollah fighters are moving towards the border to enter Israeli territories. Meanwhile, an unfortunate incident on the border in which one journalist has been killed and 3 seriously injured. A car, a vehicle carrying journalists was hit, maybe by an artillery shell or some mortar. This vehicle was carrying Al Jazeera journalists. Reuters journalist and a Reuters cameraman has died. Some Al Jazeera journalists were injured too. They were on the border. They were trying to live stream the situation on Lebanon Israel border. It is being claimed that the shell which landed on this vehicle was fired from Israeli territory. Israel not happy with the reporting of Al Jazeera, accusing it of being a mouthpiece of Hamas. Al Jazeera could be blocked in Israel, it seems, but this attack does not seem to be a deliberate attack. Shells were being fired, maybe one shell landed at the vehicle, one journalist dead in this incident. It has been confirmed. Thirdly, viewers, 24 hours ago, Israeli military issued an ultimatum. It asked people of North Gaza, around 1 million, to move towards South Gaza. Entire northern half of Gaza was the area which was mentioned by IDF in its statement, telling the people there to move towards South Gaza, towards Egyptian border, because Israeli military said that Hamas fighters had their bases, their tunnels underneath the houses. So military was going to storm, it was going to enter Gaza, or it was going to attack with bombs which would penetrate buildings and ground. So what happened? Did people listen to this threat? Did they flee the northern part of Gaza? No large scale movement of civilians. Some were seen heading towards South Gaza, but it's not that North Gaza has been vacated, no. Hamas said that it would not let anyone take over Gaza by threatening people to leave the area. People are not leaving Gaza. To Arab countries, they are also opposing this strategy of Israeli. They are saying that Israeli forces want to commit ethnic cleansing. They are pushing people of Gaza from their homeland. That is what Qatar Amir said too when he threatened to suspend gas supply to the world. He said case of people of Gaza is the case of people who have been uprooted from their own homeland and who are displaced. So people still there in North Gaza. And around 30 minutes ago, Israeli military issued a statement saying that till 8 p.m. local time, no one will be targeted if people want to move from North Gaza towards South Gaza. So it's a sort of a temporary ceasefire in terms of strikes announced by Israeli military, giving time to people of North Gaza to move towards South Gaza. How will 1 million people move? UN humanitarian organizations last night asked Israel to withdraw this announcement of ultimatum, saying it would lead to a humanitarian catastrophe in South Gaza, which is already overcrowded. Egypt has closed the Rafah border crossing too. Let's see what Israel does after 8 p.m., 9 p.m. local time. Will it launch ground invasion, or will it intensify carpet bombing of cities in North Gaza? We'll see in coming hours. Fourthly, viewers, long-range rockets are now being fired by Gaza armed groups, PIJ, Hamas, etc. Yesterday, they fired R-160 rockets, long-range rockets fired from Gaza, managed to reach Netanya, around 90 miles away from Gaza. These rockets struck some targets. And today, they fired rockets towards northern Israel, which shares border with Lebanon. Again, long-range rockets were fired. Ayash 250 is the name of this rocket. And some of these rockets were intercepted by an Israeli defense system called David Sling, which is a long-range anti-ballistic missile defense system. Some of Ayash 250 long-range rockets were intercepted in northern Israel, fired from Gaza. So, Hamas fighters' rocket firing capability is still intact. They are firing rockets at Tel Aviv to at Ashkelon to small range rockets and long range rockets as well. Now, what about the use of phosphorus munitions? Because for the last 2 days we have been reports from Palestinian news media that Israeli forces were using prohibited phosphorus munitions, which are deadly weapons, and their use is banned, though Israel is not a signatory to the protocol which bans use of such weapons. Human Rights Watch is a human rights organization. It is not backed by Palestinians. HRW has confirmed through its investigation that Israeli military is using phosphorus munitions. It used these munitions on Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon and on the people of Gaza. Israel cannot be charged with war crimes for using these munitions because Israel is not signatory to the protocol. But most countries they condemn the use of phosphorus munitions because they can be deadly and they can cause lifelong disabilities and damage to the people who suffer because of the impact of these phosphorus munitions. But use of these munitions has been confirmed now by Human Rights Watch, an independent, neutral Western organization working to protect human rights. What happened in Gaza, in countries around Israel, Palestine today? We know that yesterday Hamas had called for protests on Friday across the world by Muslims, non-Muslims. So what happened? There were big protests in the countries around Israel. Big protests in Jordan, where people tried to march towards Jordan-Israel border. On border, there were clashes between people of Jordan and Jordanian army. Big protests in Iran, Tehran capital. Big protest in Damascus, Syria. In Yemen too, a huge rally in support of Palestinian groups. In Doha, Qatar, as I said earlier, again a big demonstration. In Iraq as well. In Gaza too, despite airstrikes being conducted, thousands conducted so far, people took to the streets in support of Hamas's call today. So, people of Arab countries, they have their support, they want to support people of Gaza, support Palestinian groups, but leaders, the ruling elite in Arab countries is divided. Some neutral, some supporting Western countries, some issuing statements, but no practical support for Palestinian fighters so far from these Arab countries. Meanwhile, a rally rather, was held in support of Israel in New York City today. The rally was by Catholics. Catholics took out a mass there and they prayed for Israel there. Hundreds attended this program in the city, New York City. This is the overall situation. No signs of any de-escalation so far. Israel adamant that it wants to crush Hamas once and for all. Hamas wants to fight back. It knew what would happen. So it was fully prepared. Hamas, PIJ, the groups fully prepared. Question is how to save the people of Gaza. They shouldn't be the victim, the collateral damage of this war. They are suffering because supply of food, water, electricity, everything to people of Gaza cut off. Gaza under siege. Nothing being allowed to enter Gaza. So how long can people of Gaza survive if this goes on? This is the important question. That is why UN is asking Israel to stop airstrikes, to open humanitarian passage. Israel wants to crush Hamas, other armed groups in Gaza, though we saw escalation in West Bank too, around Aqsa Mosque too, because Muslims tried they offered prayer there, and after the prayer there was clash between Muslim worshippers and Israeli military. And several incidents happened in West Bank today involving clash between Muslims and Israeli forces and Israeli civilians too. Last night we saw that Israeli minister was seen, he was seen monitoring the distribution of arms to Israeli civilians. So civilians, Jews are armed in West Bank. That is why we are seeing now tensions are rising. A Jewish settler was seen today, Israeli was seen today firing at Palestinians. He is a civilian, and an Israeli soldier was seen standing by. And we have seen attacks on Israeli police stations by Palestinians too. I reported 2 attacks yesterday. So overall, things heating up in West Bank, East Jerusalem too. But main front still is Gaza, and to some extent northern Israel, Lebanon border. Thank you for watching.